Nitin, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi Pawan. Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I think somewhere might be my side.
Okay, so is it fine,
You
right?
can start. Yes, now it's on.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you, Pawan. Let's introduce myself. So myself Nitin, and I'm from. Yeah, sorry.
Nitin, can you turn on your video once?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, if there is really a network issue, then we can drop off the video.
Okay, so I just started my video, fine, right?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so yes, myself Nitin, and I'm from Hyderabad, currently staying in Hyderabad. And coming to my technical experience, yes, I worked as a Java developer starting from my career, and I completed. Generally, I mean, I completed my MS from USA, and I joined into one company as a fresher point of view, and then I started working for there for 2 years, and then I moved to India, and then I started working for the Explore Technology under the payroll of Explore Technologies, but worked for the Infosys company. And yes, even there also I worked for the Spring Boot and microservices architecture project as part of the banking domain application. And after that, I just moved to the one more company called as Expirus IT Solutions, that is also located in Hyderabad. And as part of that, I worked with the client called as Toyota Motors. I used to directly work with Toyota Motors development team. So I that is what. So it's all about my professional experience. And coming to skill set point of view, yes, I started career as a Java developer, and then I got a chance to work with Spring and Spring Boot frameworks, as well as in the previous project I had a chance to work with a framework called as Quarkus framework. It is similar to Spring Boot also. I just had an overview of Quarkus and how it is working. And yes, even I have good knowledge of microservices architecture, how it is working, how we are going to implement the microservices architecture. A couple of components under the microservices architecture I have involved as part of implementation point of view, and even I understood how it is working as expected. And even I integrated, I have good knowledge related to security layer, how we are going to enable the security layer as part of our Spring MVC applications and everything. So these are the areas I have involved in around 4 years of my Java experience. And so this is what. So coming to project experience, yes, I had worked for the earlier banking domain projects. One is for Bank of America, and after that I worked for the Northern Trust. And in the recent project, I worked for the Toyota Motors for the North America client. And this is all about project experience, where I involved into multiple projects point of view when I'm working for different organizations. So achievement point of view, so when I'm talking about the achievement point of view, yes, under these 4 years, so especially in previous project, whenever I just moved to the joined for the project, so along with Spring Boot framework, they are using one more framework called as Quarkus framework. So I just started looking into Quarkus, and I got knowledge of Quarkus framework, how it is working, all this point of view. And I mean, achievements wise, yes, just generally wherever I was working, I used to prove or I was working as a core development point of view, and I used to prove like myself as an individual uh, contributor point of view, or maybe taking care of things on my own as much as possible in every application point of view with my own interest, and as well as meeting the deadlines of the application or deliverables. Every point of view I will take care of the things.
Thanks, Nitin. I think in 4 years you have a lot of things achieved. And you have a mostly background from Java only. So what I do is, let's start with the basic thing. Then we can check your Spring and what does rest of things.
Okay.
So can you just give me why the Spring is immutable? Java?
String is immutable, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the concept of immutability in objects is all about when we are modifying the object value, object data. Generally, instead of whatever the modified value, so the result value is going to create a new instance instead of updating the existing instance, and the reference will be pointed to the new instance with modified value. So that is what the immutability concept here. And when it comes to string, yes, the string data type, generally what I understood is string data type is we are using most of the cases to support any other data type values or whatever it is. Most of the times we are using string in most of the cases. So to make sure memory utilization point of view, or maybe internally with respect to string pool, whatever the concepts they are enabling internally, string pool point of view, to memory utilization point of view, as well as they made string as immutable concept.
Okay, Nitin, thanks. Now you can turn off your camera. It's fine.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
So yeah, that's fine. Now this is like the Java giving us to the string as immutable. Like if I want to create my own object as a immutable, so what are the actual steps required? What are the things we have to design as a class to create an immutable object?
Okay. So immutability point of view, when we want to implement our own immutability class, so generally what are the steps I remember is we have to make the class as final class, so that no one cannot inherit our class. So that's our purpose. We will make the class as we will declare the class as final class, so that no one cannot inherit our properties and no one cannot access the things. Inheriting point of view. And after that, what we can do, whatever the properties we defined as part of the class, like instance variables, we can declare it as private variables, so that anyone can create object for our class, but they should not access our properties via object reference point of view. So outside of the class, we should not allow accessing directly via properties point of view. That's why we will make variables as private variables. And after that, and even we can make variables as final variables also, so that when we are applying final keyword to the variable, whenever we assign a value, then it will become as a constant value. We cannot modify the value after first initialization. Even we cannot modify next initialization, next time onwards we cannot modify the value. So that is what the things we have to take. And maybe we can create a constructor as part of the class, parameterized constructor. What are the values we want to construct? Those values also, those properties we can define as part of the constructor of the class. And when we can initialize the object then.
Okay, so this is like about immutable our own class. Like for primary data types like the integer, right? We cannot create immutable for integers. Why they give the difference between the integer and string?
Integer, yeah. Primitives is just like data types point of view, but integer is all about wrapper classes. So you're asking like.
Yeah, what is the difference between the capital integer, right, and the string? Like string is immutable. Why the capital integer is not immutable?
Okay. So the wrapper class integer point of view, they are not made it as immutable. I'm not sure about why they are not enabled immutability in the integer object level.
Okay, so like when you create any applications where required authentication and everything,
okay,
like password, why we use the string? Like I know we provide multiple combination for password, like character and integer and all the combinations. But let's say assume you have password is only pure integers, no other characters. So in that case, why still we use the string or using the integer? Because it's like the pure digit, right? So in that case, as per we should have to use integer. Why we use still integer string in that case?
Okay.
What was the concept behind?
Okay. So the concern probably immutability concept is saying like when we are for example, when we have a value like 123 as a password value, and the reference is representing some a variable is a reference we are having for the value 123, and whenever we are modifying the existing password from modify it to some other value 1 2 3 4 5 6 something like that, then if anywhere else we are having the old reference of memory location and all, we can easily find out the updated value. But whenever it is immutability point of view, the entire reference memory location is changing because it is creating a new instance instead of updating on the existing instance. So that even though when we are having references of old instance, so it will contain only old value, it will not showcase any new updated value as part of the password point of view.
Okay, so now just give me answer on that. If I have a string A is equal to in double quote 1 2 3.
Okay.
There is another string B is equal to new string double quote 1 2 3.
Okay.
How many objects will be created into the memory?
Total 2 objects will be created here, Pawan. So first one we represented as literal A equal to double quotes of string value, and second one is via instance new operator. We are creating the string. So first one is created inside the string pool. A reference is created inside the string pool, but B reference is created in the heap memory point of view as a different object. So total 2 objects will be created.
Okay, and if I will do one more like string C is equal to 4 5 6.
Okay.
Then
so A is 1 2 3 and B is also 1 2 3, right? Generally, I mean B is only created by a new, but C is 4 5 6.
yes.
Okay, then 4 5 6 again it will create one more reference. I mean one more object inside the string pool for 4 5 6 value.
Okay, fine. Now, can you give me the difference between error and exceptions?
Error and exception. The difference between error and exception, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what I mean, exception point of view. So first I'm talking about the exception generally. Whenever we are writing the logics or when we as part of our application requirement implementation point of view, generally we will go for the exception handling, and we used to encounter predefined exceptions or maybe runtime exceptions, whatever. But exception is all about a abnormal situation or abnormal scenario, like where I mean in the flow of execution sometimes because of our data problem maybe or whatever the thing it is, I mean abnormal situations or something like that, unexpected situations, we will get exceptions. It's all about problem arises from our code or data coming as part of our instances or whatever it is. But when it comes to error, error is all about something like we cannot recover from our logic point of view or code point of view. The errors are related to something like infrastructure issues, most of the time something like when Java JVM RAM memory is filled, or maybe the Java heap memory everything is filled, then we will get like out of memory error issues. So there is no relation with the code. Actually that error is coming because of the Java infrastructure or the Java JVM memory what we configured at our system level or server level. So those kind of things we are calling it as errors. But when it comes to exceptions are produced from our logic or code point of view, which we can handle, but errors we cannot handle because it is out of the scope of logic implementation. It's all about infrastructure level like JVM sizes, these kind of things.
Okay, so in that case, error always come from the platform point of view, like infrastructure point of view.
Yeah, yes.
But the applications will trigger error, or the platform will trigger the error?
Platform will trigger the error. For example, that's what I just encountered earlier when I'm practicing the things in my computer, or maybe sometimes out of memory error we used to get like it is getting from the Java level. So JVM is throwing an error like out of memory error, the entire memory is used, but it is not throwing something from our application implementation point of view.
In that case, we cannot handle error.
Right? Yeah, yes. We have to handle in the error in the sense we have to take care from the perspective of infrastructure wise, like increasing the heap memory size, all these kind of scenarios, but nothing has to do from our logic implementation level.
Okay, fine. Can you give me some idea on hash table?
Okay, hash table is all about it is a class from the map interface. So generally we used to store values like key value pairs in the HashMap So that is what, when you are having a requirement related to key and value pairs concept, then you can utilize the hash table object, hash table class, and we can create instances and with respect to key value pairs.
So what is the difference between hash table and hash set?
Hash table and
Hash set.
okay, hash set is again hash set is just like allowing only values. There we don't have any combination like key value pairs. Hash table is all about key value pair combination. We can store key comma value combinations, but when it comes to hash set, we will store only one value. At a time we can store only one value. Like hash set is all about, it will not allow duplicate values, but only one value at a time. Only one value you can store. It's not like key value pair concepts.
So can you explain HashMap how it works insanely?
HashMap internal.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, so what when I just gone through the HashMap source code earlier to just understand the thing. So what I observed is they are taking, whenever we adding a key comma value pair. Okay, so keys are unique generally as part of HashMap point of view. So whenever we are adding key comma value pair, so it is applying some hashing. They are calculating some hashing value on the key value whatever we given, and after that they are applying some index value, and they are maintaining internally an array. They are calling it as bucketing array, buckets in array. Array index bucketing arrays concept something. But finally it is an array. And what they are doing, they are finding some index value on top of the key, and that index value is related to the internally defined array level. And now whatever the index value they are getting on top of the key, that respective key comma value they are storing in that array index level. And after that, whenever we are inserting one more key comma value, so whatever the index value comes again after hashing value and all, again that value will be stored inside the respective array index level. In case sometimes whenever they got same index value for another key, even though it is a unique key, but sometimes there may be a chance of getting same index value, then they are making internally, they are forming a linked list with respect to same index key comma value pairs. That is how I understood the hash table internal while we are inputting the data. It generally it will be called as hash collision or something. Same index when you are getting.
Okay. What will be the difference between LinkList and HashSet?
LinkList and HashSet. Okay, so LinkList is all about a class derived from the list interface, but when it comes to HashSet, it is completely derived from the set interface. And the functionality wise also, LinkList will allow duplicate values. Whenever we want to take duplicate values, or in allowing the duplicate values, in the sense we can go for the LinkList. But when it comes to HashSet functionality, HashSet is all about allowing only unique values. That is what. And internal implementation is also completely different, because linked list is allowing duplicate values. Even HashSet is not at all allowing duplicate values.
So let's say we have a requirement, we have to read some data from database.
Okay.
And we have to write. So that is one service, which is reading and writing. Another service is like we will read that particular file which we write. So let's say we are reading data from database, writing in an Excel. Second service will be reading that Excel and inserting data into another table, right?
Okay.
So in this whole implementation, what kind of the component and what things as a developer you should have to take care? Like data should be any amount of, file should be any amount of, and there is also some duplication and everything you have to avoid while reading the data from database. So what kind of the collection have you can use to complete this entire design?
Okay, so avoiding the duplicates while reading the data, and again processing via file to database point of view, you have to avoid the duplicate data after reading the data from the source.
Yes.
Okay, so while first of all, anyway, in the source we will have duplicate, but when you want to avoid the duplicates point of view, generally we can go for the hash set to avoid the duplicate values. Maybe it is entity objects. I mean, in case if you created any entity objects also, we can override internally equals and hash code method to identify the content of the instances and everything. And we can store every record as an instance to the hash set level, so that once we are reading data from the source table, we can define some POJO classes or row mapper classes, and we can override hash code and equals, so that we can store those instances in the hash set. Now hash set contains only unique values unique values with respect to entities point object point of view. And now that value I can store inside the excel file, whatever it is. We can use some predefined apis to store as part of the excel or whatever it is. And then again, from there we can process to the database, because already by the time HashSet itself contains duplicate, without duplicate, the content is available in the HashSet.
Okay, so now you are reading this data from table to write Excel and everything.
Yeah.
Do we require anything additional, like let's say your object is like the entity which has 5 fields, database also 5 fields.
Okay.
Tomorrow might be there something we have to remove from entity, like before we are reading 5, now we have to read 3. So what will be the impact? Like we remove the objects and add the objects in the entire process. Does it require something to be handled?
Okay, loading only 3 properties out of 5 properties.
Yeah, so other service will read from data from Excel, right? So also your entity is there.
Yeah.
Now your writing entity, which is writing 3 properties, your reading entity, it has 5 entity. He doesn't have, right? Because that is the independent things. So in that case, that entire things will work or not?
If you're only reading partial properties, then it will not.
So something to avoid, what we can add as an entity level?
Constraints, entity table. Not sure about it. What we can add?
Okay, I think you heard less serializations.
Yeah, serialization, yes. I mean, theory point of view I heard, but implementation wise never ever. Yeah, so just like reading the state of objects kind of thing.
Okay, fine. I think that's okay. Okay, now coming to the like when you do the iteration of array list, right? Let's say you have list of user object.
Okay.
100 units. Now you are iterating the list, checking one object one by one.
Yeah.
Now your application is multi-threading.
Okay.
Now you are traversing your list, and in between the list, which element you are trying to remove, you are trying to get that element. Somehow that element is removed by another thread. So to avoid that, because when you try to get element 1,
yeah,
but that is already removed by the another thread, because it's a multi-thread applications.
Yeah.
So to avoid that, what exactly we have to add here or something to avoid this kind of exception or something?
Okay. So generally, what I understood, like fail. So when while iterating the list of objects, and when we are seeing any modification on the the actual list object, generally we have a concept called as fail fast, something like concurrent modification exception. So because concurrent in the sense it's all about threading environment, like modification. If any modification observed on the another on the list object structure level, it will throw some concurrent modification exception. So we can take care of concurrent modification exception here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something
so
like
now
synchronize
you
it.
work on Spring. Yeah, fine. So in Spring, can you explain the bean scope?
Yeah, sure, Pawan. So bean scope is all about when we are defining any bean object in our Spring framework point of view, like as a component class or maybe bean configuration point of view. So Spring framework by default maintain some couple of scopes. I mean, Spring framework overall maintains some scopes, but when it comes to by default, the scope is singleton bean object. So what is the meaning of by default singleton bean object? Is, for example, if I have a class called as employee, and if I created two bean objects for the employee like E1 comma E2, E1 bean object is a singleton bean object and E2 is a singleton bean object. So that means whenever I am trying to auto wire employee E1 object or E2 object in any of other classes, or maybe wherever I am getting E1 object from the container, Spring container, like getBean method, by using getBean method, whatever it is, then it will return a same bean object whatever it is initialized the first time, like E1 point of view. Even similarly E2 also, whatever the object it is created, the same object being maintained by the Spring container always, and the same object will be returned wherever we are auto wiring, or maybe wherever we are just processing as part of the dependency injection point of view. That is the default scope in Spring framework, be singleton. But after that, we have something like prototype also. Prototype is all about what it will do. It will create a new instance for every new dependency injection. I mean, whenever it is performing dependency injection, it will not bother about the old object. It will freshly create a new object and it will inject. Similarly, we do have other bean scopes, something like request, which is related to web module point of view. So generally, when we are defining @request body POJO classes, something like request body classes, and whenever we are sending a new HTTP request for that respective endpoint level, then every time that object will be freshly generated with the request body, whatever the payload it is coming. So like that, Spring framework is designed different scopes for the different bean classes. Different scenarios
Okay,
level, different.
So yeah, that's fine. So let's say we have an example like I have a class A.
Okay.
Right, and I define component.
Okay.
I have another separate class P. I define service. Now in class A, I define auto wire class B.
Okay.
Okay. And in class B, I define auto wire class A. Now if I'll start my application, is the application will start, is the application will throw error, or its application will run completely perfectly without error?
A inside B, A is component.
Class A is component, class B is the service. I auto wire class B inside A, and inside B class A auto wire.
Yeah, I got it. So I think here there is application will not start, because the reason is we are just making like a circular dependency point of view, because A depends on the B. At the same time, to initialize the B looking for the A instance. But when B container is trying to create A instance, at the same time it is looking for the B. So like that, it is forming a circular dependency point of view, so that the application will not be started, because even either component or service annotations, even service also nothing but a component annotation. It is derived from the component point of view. So you will get some circular dependency problems.
Okay. Now, like you explained the bean scope, right? So I think you work on REST API. So when any request come to the application,
okay,
we received some object. So which bean scope comes in the picture? Like if you have like a multi-user application, you will receive multiple requests.
Yeah.
So when you receive the request in the JPA, what kind of the bean scope comes for each and every stage.
I mean, we are talking about the payload point of view, right? I mean, what the payload coming to our our controller service.
Yes, correct.
Controller.
Even payload, even REST controller is also initialized, right?
Yeah, yes, it will be initialized.
One request. So all the object which comes in the picture to your database, which bean scope will be applied here?
I mean, with respect to whenever a multi-user environment level, like whenever you are getting incoming web request, so it will take bean scope as request for the for every new HTTP request, incoming request, it is taking scope as request scope for that specific object.
And I wanted to make as a singleton scope for that particular REST API. What we have to do? I wanted to create a singleton REST API. Is it possible in Spring?
A request body level making as @singleton. I mean singleton scope. Sorry. I think we cannot do that, because if it is singleton, it contains same values again and again. Even though for other users also, it will try to store same values, right? If it is singleton, making request. See, when a person is sending, I mean, multi-user environments, in the sense every user will have different data. So that means every new request, every a new object has to be created with new values. So for the same existing properties, I think we cannot do the singleton then. If you are thinking in just.
So let's say if I'll have an example like the property, you're reading the property, right, in Spring.
Yeah.
So that is a one-time activity, right? So ultimately they read the property and store. That would be the singleton. Entire application will use that value for every time whenever any object requests, right?
Yes.
So I can expose that property. So does it work or not? Because you said that singleton will not work, right, as a REST API.
I mean, I'm just talking about @request body binding class level.
That @request body I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the object which we are passing or receiving, right? Let's say you are passing the any object something, or it might be giving a response, right? So that entire request to the response.
Okay.
Does it work or not? Might be.
A request at what level? I mean, controller level or?
Controller level, yes. It will work in case of, it will work. We are not changing anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you define something like at instance variable level, I mean, as an instance variable level, if you defined a singleton scope for an object, even in controller class level, yes, it will work then.
Yeah, because we not updating anything, and we are not.
Yeah, yes.
Whatever. Okay.
I just answered earlier, like with respect to @request body point of view. I did not thought about the property level or instance variable level.
Okay. What is the IOC container?
Yeah, so IOC container is part of Spring Core framework core module type. So I mean, IOC is all about inversion of control, like inversion of control principle. So there is a principle called as inversion of control, and it is saying like the word itself, I mean the IOC inversion itself saying like something from the opposite way, like inversionally doing something. That means here Spring Framework is saying like with respect to dependency injection implementation point of view, whenever we defined a Java class, or I mean whenever we defined a bean class, and we have to configure, whenever we define a Java class, we are going to configure that Java class as a bean class with this Spring Framework. So that what Spring Framework is doing, whenever we are starting our application, Spring Framework scanning all our bean classes or component classes, and it is creating the objects, container creating objects for all our respective component classes or bean classes, and maintained by the container. The life cycle of bean objects is maintained by the container. And whenever we want the respective class object, instead of we are creating on our own by using again new operator manually and all, simply we are getting it from the container point of view. So that means here the container is in a reverse manner, the container is producing objects to our respective dependencies level. So that is what the meaning of inversion of control. The control is taken care by the Spring Framework, managing of the objects and all. That's why they are calling it as IOC container.
Okay, so have you, like, whenever your application will start, all the beat will initialize, right? So the runtime, have you ever tried to refresh any beat by forcefully, not from the applications?
No, generally going with default things like component scan and all, but runtime level forcefully updating never done.
Okay. Have you worked on JPA?
Yes, Pawan. I had knowledge of JPI working on JPI also. Yeah.
Okay, so what is the lazy loading?
Okay, so lazy loading generally, with respect to relationships, I encountered the lazy loading. For example, whenever we are having a concept called as mapping concept, so parent versus child or maybe source versus target point of view. So whenever, for example, employee versus address, if I taken, whenever I'm hitting, I mean, entity object of employee, I just pass it to the repository level, and then I want to fetch some data related to employee and associated address information of the from the address table, address entity table. But here, as per the lazy loading point of view, what it will do, it will not load immediately the address values from the actual address table. It will load only records from the employee table. But whenever we are trying to use address entity out of the entity, I mean address reference from the employee entity, then it will start loading content from that address table. That is what lazy loading happening in relationships point of view.
Okay, let's say JPA, I think each and every table has some unique key, right? Something ID. Right?
Yeah, yes, at the rate ID, yes.
But let's say we have one table, we don't have any unique ID. So how you can create your entity? Because the JPA needs some unique ID.
Yeah, JPA will throw an exception like ID is not available.
But in that case, if I really wanted to run my applications, right? So is there any solution? Because this is like might be possible, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Because yeah. So is there any mechanisms to avoid or something? Because Java is an independent platform, right? So like if we say that we are depending, right? Some data source, some ID, that won't work. So do you have any idea on that?
Nothing much.
Okay, I think that's it from my side.
Okay.
Exactly. On Quarkus, I think what you work.
Quarkus, I mean.
Service you have developed?
Yeah, I just worked for. Sorry.
How many services have you developed?
I mean, in the previous project, I worked for a couple of months. Like I understood, first time I started working on the Quarkus point of view. There, I just understood how they are writing things with respect to Quarkus point of view and features of the Quarkus. So I just implemented a couple of REST services by using some application scope, all these things, the annotations related to the Quarkus framework point of view. I implemented a couple of REST services as part of microservices architecture. In a couple of microservices, they are using Quarkus framework. So that's what I understood, basic knowledge of Quarkus, and I can write down the services on my own by using Quarkus framework, and even the Pinachi repository. These are all knowledge I got with respect to Quarkus point of view. The respect to annotations, REST services implementation, JAX-RS annotations using as part of Quarkus framework level.
Okay, thanks, Nitin. Do you have any questions regarding roles or anything?
I mean, generally, questions wise, technically, I don't have much, but only thing is just what kind of applications generally you guys are taking care of, maybe implementation wise, just a thought.
Actually, the industry is something like telecom industry, but yeah, of course, I cannot say that if you are going to work on
Okay.
But we are mostly focusing on Apache Camels and Quarkus, Spring, as well as the OpenShift. These are the key roles as well as for Java.
Okay, got
Any
it.
other questions?
Nothing much, Pawan. That's just an idea. That's all.
Joshi sir, you have any questions or anything? No, sir. I'm good. I just joined. I saw that the invite popped up in my screen, so I just joined. So no questions.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.